I'm here to call on the Prime Minister to call a by-election in Guelph right away. It's not right that we have, both here in Guelph and we have elsewhere in the country, situations where, unfortunately, members of Parliament are simply not showing up for work. We could mention the former Prime Minister Paul Martin, who hasn't showed up for any votes this session at all. We have the Liberal Party generally that is turning out only at the rate of about 60% of the time. Now, for ordinary working people, if they had that kind of attendance record on the job, I think it would be fair to say their employer would be taking action. And I think the people in Guelph want to see some action taken. The people across the country want to see it taken. I've spoken to the Prime Minister about this, and I have urged him to call a by-election in Guelph as soon as possible, so we can have a strong voice for the citizens of Guelph on the global issues, on the local issues in the House of Commons. So I'm calling on Mr. Dion to say to those members of Parliament who aren't showing up for work that they should resign their seat and open it up for the by-election, and that should start right here in Guelph. And I'm calling on Mr. Harper to call the by-election as soon as possible so that the people of Guelph can get a voice in the House of Commons that they can be proud of, in fact, so they can have a voice at all. Thank you all very, very much.
Guelph hasn't been well represented in the What's your opinion about Mrs. Kennedy's representation?
Well, I think one measure of good representation is whether or not the votes are cast on the important issues. And I think most Canadians were quite shocked by the story we all saw yesterday, assessing the number of times that political parties, members of Parliament, were voting. And it turns out the Liberals had only turned out to vote 62% of the time on the 76 votes that have happened. Now, you can understand, we had a member of Parliament who broke her ankle and was in the hospital. People who can forgive that kind of thing. Or sometimes there's a family event, or we needed to send a member of Parliament to an international gathering where Canada had to be present. So 100% is good, but nobody's asking for perfection. As New Democrats, we were there 90% of the time, 90% plus to vote, and we think that's your obligation. This riding turned out to have one of the worst records in this session. And I think that's a problem, particularly given that the announcement was made quite some time ago that the incumbent wasn't going to run again. But the date to leave was set on April the 7th. It looks like the exit actually happened quite a bit earlier than that. And we just don't think that's right. That's why we're saying, why not resign now? Why not get the by-election going right now?
What about a federal election? Why not a federal election?
Well, as you know, we have been voting against the Conservative government on issues. In fact, with the exception really of essentially procedural matters or simply good government matters like the accountability bill, we vote against the government's direction because we think it's wrong for Canada. Unfortunately, the Liberals have voted with the government 60% of the time, including confidence motions, and the result is Canadians haven't had the chance to send a message to Stephen Harper. You'll have to really ask Stéphane Dion about that.
Tom, what do you think of Brenda's record as a constituent and a possible candidate in the by-election?
Well, if the record is correct, out of the 76 votes, I think she's voted in 10 of those. And I think Charlie Angus said it best of all. Charlie's one of our MPs, when he said that the first thing that you have to do as a member of Parliament is show up. And I don't know what the situation was with Brenda. I know that politics is a hard job. I know that it can wear you down. But nonetheless, I think you have to show up to your job. As Jack said, if I was working in the Ford plant, let's say, for instance, and I didn't show up for a week, my boss would have a couple of things to say to me. They probably wouldn't be very pleasant. So I can't speak for Brenda. I don't know what her situation was. All I know is it feels as though we're not getting much in the way of representation here in this community. I think we need that. And as far as the by-election goes, it's true that it would be suppose, annoying to have a by-election and then a general election right at the back end of that. But so far as I can tell, the Liberals aren't in a position where they're going to want to call an election until October 2009, and that is just too long for us not to have a representative in the House of Commons.
Thank you very much for being here.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.